Tennessee basketball beats Missouri 85-81 in what was a surprisingly tough game Wednesday night. Tennessee basketball did what needed to be done to win. The Vols got Igor Milicic Jr. and Zakai Ziegler back in their starting lineups, and boy, did they need them. Zakai Ziegler and Milicic each scored 21 points. So today's tough question is this, and I'm just going to pose it. I'm going to ask it for the message board. Did Tennessee show itself to be a team that can make a deep NCAA tournament run with Wednesday night's win over Missouri? Tennessee, for those who don't know, scored 28 points in the first half and 57 points in the second half of that game, which was kind of wild to think about. It was 85-81, but it was actually a lot more of a blowout than that when you really look at the stats and the breakdown and everything like that. Tennessee had a 74-61 lead with 3 minutes to go and played free throw shooting the rest of the game while Missouri was coming back with a bunch of threes. Missouri ended up shooting 40% from three on the night, and they only committed 3 turnovers against that Rick Barnes defense in that building. And it's not like the defense was bad. Missouri was just playing very disciplined basketball. They looked very good, and it was a lot for Tennessee to have to deal with. They needed their offense to show up, and their offense did show up. I think despite a close win in a game that they were favored to win by more, it was still against a ranked team, and a ranked team that played very well, and a ranked team that's on a roll that beat 2 ranked teams on their own last week. I actually think Tennessee showed more in their win over Missouri than they did in their win over Florida. I know that's crazy. Florida, they beat a top 5 team by 20 points, but that was more about how, yes, Tennessee's defense was good. Yes, Chaz Lanier showed up, but Florida just had an awful shooting performance that Saturday. It was a noon Saturday game at Thompson Bowling Arena. Missouri was rested, was ready for this game. They played as well as you could possibly play. And don't forget, Missouri beat Florida at Florida. So this team is very capable. And I think given what Missouri threw at Tennessee, Tennessee's ability to win this game and score 85 points actually is more impressive than their win over Florida for a couple of reasons. One, I think that, again, they showed they could – actually, here's the biggest one. They found new ways to score. How did they beat Missouri last night, particularly after trailing 34-28 at halftime? Igor Milicic Jr., coming back from an illness on Saturday, absolutely asserted himself in the paint for the first time all year. Everybody give Igor Milicic Jr. a round of applause. If you're at your desk right now, stand up just figuratively and give him a round of applause. We've been calling for this for a while. Now, he was still 2 of 3 from 3. He was efficient from the free throw line, and you want him to be able to stretch the court by shooting the 3-ball well. But one of the biggest issues with Igor Milicic Jr. has been, one, when his three-point shot is not falling, he doesn't find other ways to score despite his size. That wasn't the case in this game. He played big. He played physical. He played tough. The man came away with 21 points, 10 rebounds, 4 blocked shots, 5 assists. Give that man credit. Igor Milicic Jr. did exactly what he needed to do to help Tennessee win this game. And here's the key on this. If Igor Milicic can body people under the basket and score from the paint and score from the mid-range, Tennessee has a way to manufacture buckets when things are going very poorly. And that's what he was doing in the second half. That is a new element to his game that we didn't see. Then comes Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler was 4 of 4 from 3. And you heard Missouri talk about after the game how they basically let him shoot and were shocked that he did that well from 3 because he hasn't been good from 3 all year, and he scored 21 points. He gets a lot of credit. But most notably, 2 things. Chaz Lanier only had 10 points, was 2 of 5 from 3 from the game. But they keyed in on him, and he didn't take himself out of the game. And what I mean by that is he was consistently moving, consistently doing cuts and things like that. And Felix Opera, under the basket, got 12 points, went 4 of 5 on free throws, made himself an offensive threat under the basket. Why is that relevant? If you have to respect Opera's game, and a lot of people have been noting that his free throw shooting has actually been solid from form all year. It just hasn't been going in, and finally it started going in. So if you have to respect him under the basket offensively, because if you foul him, he'll hit his free throws. If Igor Milicic adds in the element of scoring under the basket, if Chaz Lanier remains the threat from the perimeter that everybody focuses on, you're really starting to spread the defense out a little thin, guys. And that's why Zakai was able to be so deadly from 3 yesterday, because he had better looks than he's had all year. And all of a sudden, you have the most complete offense that you could possibly have. And by the way, Jemai Mashack only had 7 points, but did hit a 3 and was 2 or 3 from the field. When you gave him the ball, you had to respect him to a certain degree. Jordan Gainey had 10 off the bench. But the big thing here is Tennessee can now play inside-out basketball. They can play inside-out basketball. You have to respect at least 4 scorers on the court at any time. And you have to respect the ability of most of the Pigs to score from multiple places. That's why yesterday's game was by far, I think, I don't want to say most impressive, because look, beating Florida without Igor or Zakai Ziegler stands out. But I want to say most meaningful when trying to determine whether or not this team is capable of making a run in the NCAA tournament. Missouri played the type of game yesterday that if you ran into that team in the NCAA tournament, they would beat you. This is the type of low seed that upsets you in the NCAA tournament. And Missouri's not a low seed, by the way. They're a top 5, top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. Not like overall, just in one of the brackets. But if a lower seed plays like them in a neutral court, that's how they upset you. They shoot very well from 3, and they don't turn the ball over. And that's exactly what Missouri did. And they did it in Thompson Bowling Arena on a Wednesday night, which is a big deal. So if this is on a neutral site, or if this is at Missouri, Tennessee's losing this game. And you kind of got to, I mean, you can't even get mad. It's one of those games you lose where you just tip your cap to the other team for doing everything right. So it's a big deal that Tennessee was able to get this win. I think this is what's going to allow them to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. So I'm setting up the poll question now, and we'll just go ahead and ask it. Did Tennessee's win over Missouri prove the Vols can make a deep run in the NCAA tournament? Answers are yes. Offense revealed new ways to score. I'm sorry. Yes, Vols revealed new ways to score. Almost done, guys. Or no, they barely won. All right. So I'm going to say yes. Vols showed new ways to score. I think the fact that they could score, the fact that Milicic could score from the paint was one of the biggest deals. It was so huge. And Matt SS says there were only 15 three-point attempts, shot 66% from 3 and 50% from the field. Still was close, shows Missouri ain't no joke. That is true, Matt. It was never really in question after, like, late. I know Missouri kept making it close and close, but as long as Tennessee was hitting their free throws, and they were going to hold off and win. Dylan Elam has a point per Jordan Moore. Tennessee is 10-0 when taking 30-plus shots from the paint. Yeah, you got to play inside out. I'm not trying to be old school. 3-point shooting wins this day and age of college basketball, but Tennessee's got to play inside out. Igor Milicic just can't camp out on the perimeter. He's got to be able to make you respect his ability to score in the paint, and he did that in this game. Chaz Lanier has to get involved and stay involved. Even when he's not the main scorer like last night, he's got to stay involved. I don't put a lot of blame of Zakai's poor shooting before last night, which he didn't play on Saturday. I never really put that on him. And I know that's controversial, but if you think about it, Zakai Ziegler, a lot of him doing that had way more to do with the fact that he was in moments where the star scorers took themselves out of the game. And I think that was always a big issue. I mean, just notably, we have to point out that Chaz Lanier got called out for taking himself out of the game a week ago against Kentucky. Before that, he was benched for having a play call for him to score and not actually going up to score, which is an issue. So when you take those things into account, you have to think about the fact that, honestly, Chaz Lanier and Igor Milicic not doing what they need to do offensively are why Zakai Ziegler has been taking a lot of bad shots before last night. So they really have to address that. The show represented by Banks & Jones, tscottjones.com, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones.
All right, our poll question: did Tennessee's win over Missouri prove the Vols can make a deep run in the NCAA tournament? Yes, the Vols showed new ways to score. No, they barely won. 71% are saying yes, the Vols showed new ways to score. 29% are saying no, they barely won. Again, I understand the no that they barely won, but I'm going with the yes. They showed new ways to score. That's my hot take on this one. I totally understand you, Dylan, that you need to see consistency, and part of that is the offense needs to be willing to do what they did yesterday and play inside out. I wouldn't have said that about last year's offense. This is a different team. You got two bigs that are threats in their own way. And Matt says you've been chirping inside out for weeks. Exactly. And Matt has another good point. You got to prove to be dominant on the road to prove they can go deep in March. Well, Matt, I will say they did put up a fight against Auburn, but I'm actually on your side on that. They haven't proven that yet. So with that in mind, I think Tennessee did show a good bit in this win over Missouri. Finding multiple ways to score was a huge deal, particularly when, look, Chaz Lanier has some limitations. We have to call it what it is. Now, we had Steve Hamer on the show earlier in the week, and he had a great point that a part of this is that Tennessee is still somewhat adjusting to SEC play, because we have to bring up the fact that Tennessee did not play as tough of a schedule that they thought they were going to play at the beginning of the year, because a lot of the teams they scheduled turned out to be bad. And we're talking Baylor, Syracuse, just a lot of games. You guys help me. Who was the coach that bolted like right before the season started? Miami. Just a lot of issues like that. And I think that really started to stand out. And then the SEC turned out to be much, much, much better than we all thought it would be. So with those two things in mind, I think that it caused some major problems for Tennessee. And I think that, honestly, it made SEC play rough at the beginning. I think they are actually getting better now. But to this point, you got to give them some credit.